The sequel to 2015's much-loved yet rough-edged Dying Light had an almost unbearable weight of expectation to live up to. Whilst the original game had its fair share of detractors, long-time fans praised its first-person parkour, not since Mirror's Edge had traversing from point A to point B been so thrilling. For Dying Light 2 stay human to satiate the appetite of players who've been patiently anticipating a sequel, developer Techland needed to keep its parkour mechanics consistently outstanding. Playing Dying Light 2, it's clear they've achieved this. Movement is fast and fluid, with every clamber, slide and leap an exciting rush, aided in no short amount to Techland implementing over 3,000 unique movement animations into the game. The successful implementation of immersive fluidity by Techland isn't so much the result of innovation though, it's more a reflection of their ambition. The game reaches for the stars, and whilst getting there with its freewheeling traversal, it disappointingly lands a lot closer in other areas. The game's narrative, for instance, was a letdown. A sharper focus on emotional storytelling throughout the development process didn't necessarily translate into something interesting. There are a raft of memorable characters fighting for survival in this postmodern dark age, though. In a ruined society bereft of economics and culture, it's Dying Light 2's supporting cast that arguably provide the most intrigue into how people carry on once the whole world crumbles around them. It certainly isn't down to player character Aidan Caldwell's inclusion. Despite being the game's narrative protagonist, his quest to find his missing sister Mia is run-of-the-mill at best. I'm getting ahead of myself here though, for this feature aims to highlight exactly what has made Dying Light 2 one of the biggest hits of 2022. Well, firstly, I'd like to point out the game was released to a mixed reception by critics. Some publications rated the game highly, some not so much. The fact a major title, and a hotly anticipated one at that, is divisive is nothing new. The game came out on February the 4th of this year, with sales surpassing 5 million units by the month's end. It launched strongly on Steam too, with its all-time player peak over 4 times more than the predecessor ever achieved. In fact, Dying Light 2 became one of Steam's top 25 most played games ever when observing its concurrent player statistics. It's clearly been a commercial slam dunk for relatively small-time developer and publisher Techland. However, you and I both know that sales figures and a selection of strong reviews don't make a game a runaway success on their own. For starters, the game was a buggy mess at launch. From mysterious audio dropouts, missing non-player character dialogue, hilarious jankiness, and gaping holes in the game world within which to fall into the void, to game-breaking bugs and save file corruptions. Doesn't matter how many times this happens, games releasing in such an unfit state is still immensely frustrating. The first Dying Light had a selection of gameplay issues too, which I should point out have been largely addressed over the last 5 years by Techland. They're incredibly responsive to their community's feedback too, so I'm certain they'll deliver the complete article for Dying Light 2 via a raft of incoming updates. Still, it'd be fairer on players if, after forking out full AAA prices on a game, that it's at least shipped in serviceable condition. Now, of course, I haven't read all of the reviews of Dying Light 2 out there, but it's a fair shout to assume that some reviews with less than ideal scores are because of the game's glitchiness. Remove those from the equation, and Dying Light 2 might have achieved a higher average review score of 77 for PC on Metacritic. This illustrates to me that the meat and bones of a great experience are here, and once the unforgivable game-breaking bugs are ironed out, we'll be left with a superb, endearing title. However, to me, a 7 out of 10 is a great score. I appreciate there's desire out there for as close to, if not perfect, games delivered every time, especially with how much new games cost these days. But Dying Light 2's promise of boundaryless parkour traversal over a beautifully decayed open world should be enough of a draw no matter the price or review score. And to me at least, I think movement and world design are the 2 major ingredients contributing to the game's impressive sales and concurrent player figures. I've already touched upon the game's traversal in the feature's outset, but wow, it bears repeating. The sheer verticality of the game's movement is constantly spellbinding. Together with the grappling hook, functioning akin to Spider-Man's web-slinging swing through Manhattan, and paraglider, then from a strictly traversal perspective, this game is near perfect. Techland should be commended. For whatever reason in recent memory, first-person open-world games aren't as popular as they once were, and none previously feature such accomplished travel mechanics. It must be an immense challenge for a developer to create intricate movement, but doubly so throughout a vast open world brimming with detail and decay. I love the ramshackle appearance of the skyward structures the city survivors have cobbled together at the summit of pre-collapsed society's concrete structures and glass skyscrapers. That aesthetic of rebuilding on top of destruction never gets old to me. It's a form of visual storytelling whereby you can piece together what the uninfected survivors are doing to keep themselves free from zombification just by looking. It's constantly breathtaking. More so though, the fact traversal is implemented so perfectly throughout a vast, intricate, immersive world means playing Dying Light 2 is fun. And that's the main thing, isn't it? It's supposed to be enjoyable. Everyone has their own opinion as to what amounts to fun, of course, but for me, something enjoyable has longevity. For a game that encourages you to spend upwards of 100 hours to reach 100% completion, the foundational traversal mechanics with which the rest of the game is built on needs to be amazing, and in Dying Light 2, Techland have this longevity nailed on. As a result, the Dying Light series stands as a fairly unique offering amongst the pantheon of post-apocalyptic zombie-ravaged video games, and for that, I applaud it. But landing back on solid ground for just a moment, what of the rest of the game? The melee-heavy combat, the class of human and zombie enemies, the 4-player online co-op, the game's unlockable skills, the heralded narrative sandbox. Honestly, the game's other aspects are a mixed bag, and going into detail on each of those mechanics is beyond the scope of this feature. No, I think that the endearing nature of a game like Dying Light is, like most works of post-apocalyptic fiction, the fact that it encourages us to view the world we hold so dear through a cracked lens. What if the fragile social structures tenuously holding modern civilization together were suddenly destroyed? If the rug gets ripped from under us, how would we actually react? How would we survive without daily routine? Dying Light 2 gives us a chance to enter this ruined world and answer those questions for ourselves. Humanity's will to stay alive is primal, just like Dying Light 2's rugged open world, free of rules and regulations, shift patterns and shopping trips, is primal. Its ground-level dangers are minor consequence for a glimpse into life beyond the abyss. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. Have anything to say? Let us know in the comments below. Also, we upload new videos every single day on GamingBolt, so please consider subscribing, as it really helps us out. Thanks for watching.